As an economist, when I think about the economy, quite often we think about it in terms of capital, labor, and technology. But one of the capitals we don't talk about is social capital because it's hard to measure. That was the reason for doing this, to get a sense of what is the state of our social capital. And what we're finding in terms of our inability to find long-term solutions, as Bernard said, is because we don't have the social capital, we're unable to take those crisis responses and turn them into something that's more enduring, which is what people are looking for. And if you think about the fundamental drivers of prosperity, it's not capital, labor, and technology. It's actually our culture and institutions, which is the politics and the mechanisms that Bernard talked about. But the politics and the policies are reflections of what we value as New Zealanders. I think what we found in the survey is that what we value as New Zealanders is becoming fragmented. So we can see that New Zealanders are saying that we believe in the broader idea of New Zealand. Over 80% think that our way of life, what it means to belong to New Zealand, we can agree with it. I suspect the reason we say that is because we don't know how others think about New Zealand. I believe that we think of New Zealand and living in New Zealand in slightly different ways. And what we're seeing in terms of those divisions when it comes to that lack of social cohesion, it's most prominent in two areas. One, in terms of social inclusion and justice, a lot of the things that Bernard talked about in terms of poverty, inequality, housing, infrastructure, health, all of those things really are felt in those metrics of poverty and inequality. And the expression of it, which is participation, whether it's participation in local government or in churches or in sporting groups, our participation rates are generally falling. The reason why this matters is if we don't feel like we're included and we're not participating, then we don't think that stuff is important. And when we don't think something is important, we don't feel like we belong. So it becomes into this spiral. So, when I look at which groups are really affected by this, the ones that feel most marginalized or are feeling particularly vulnerable to these shifts, there are kind of four things that really come up. The first is poverty. That is the biggest marker. The income inequality and poverty inequality is the biggest thing that explains the difference. The second thing that comes through is politics. So your political allegiances are now becoming much more concentrated. So we hold much more strongly ideological views. It means this to be a Labour Party voter. It means this to be a Party voter. It's become, much more characteristic of, I guess, politics we see internationally, particularly in places like the US. And then there are two other things that worry me a little bit, which is around divisions amongst ethnicity and age, because those two things are shifting very rapidly in New Zealand right now. Our society is becoming far more diverse at a time when we don't have a lot of social cohesion.
Mm.
And we have a rapidly aging population and young people who feel left out. And they're the ones who are going to have to carry everything. In all the choices that we have not made, all the braver decisions that we have not made are the ones that they have to make. And so it's, to me, the social cohesion stuff was very much a starter for us to explore where we are at in terms of fundamental settings for our society, which then dictates our politics, our policies, and social participation.